thank you for joining this second meeting this evening, which is the English medium meeting to discuss revision techniques and the forthcoming exams. So you are here this evening because you have a child either in year 10, 11, 12 or 13. And usually the year 10 parents are very, afraid and worried because their children haven't done any exams, but this is the case for everybody at the moment because we've had many years now with exams being cancelled due to COVID. Okay, so I'm going to start. You should be able to see us on the screen a tweet that I thought was, very pertinent. I did a screenshot quite a long time ago. This is what we sort of tell our pupils, and they used to write this in their homework diary when they had one. Adolygu, revise. They have to revise for everything, and it's really irresponsible really for a school to think at 16 years old, 17, 18, that they can just get on with it, know what it is, know how to do this effectively and self-organise without any guidance. So the whole reason that we're holding this meeting this evening is to help you as families, to help your child, in order to make sure that the next few months is going to be stress-free. It's not going to be stress-free. I can't promise it's going to be stress-free, but it's organised, and then you are clear what they need to do and that they are spending their time wisely and using their time really effectively, because there's nothing worse than spending hours and hours on a revision that may not be effective. So this is the title screen, really, facing exams. There are lots of doors facing your children over the next few months, and they need to make wise decisions to go through the correct doors and use their time wisely. And then hopefully in the future, there will be more doors open for them in the, with their prospects after leaving Bro Eden, possibly if they're year 13 or in year 11, in this step of their education. Okay, so one of the reasons we're holding this session tonight before half term is that they need to get organised. And that means maybe finding all their notes, putting them all together, putting things in order in a file, bringing stuff together, making sure that they have all the equipment that they need. People listening tonight are probably around the same age as me. So they, back in the day, you took a pencil case, but there are exam pencil cases these days. WJC and all the other exam boards now only allow see-through pencil cases, like the one in the picture. And also you need, obviously, for year 11 pupils who are all doing maths exams this summer, you need an onglydd, whatever one of those is called, a protractor, I think they're called in English, and a compass. They need a ruler, otherwise they're not going to be able to do all the tasks in those exams. Also, it always baffles me, the night before an exam, a maths exam, somebody will always ask on the Facebook page, can somebody recommend a calculator? Your child needs to practice with their calculator, and they need to practice, for a long period of time before that exam. So please, over half term, if you're able, to make sure that your child has all the equipment they need for the next term, 2 terms, to see them through the exams, and they have plenty of time to practice. And also, find them a decent biro that doesn't leak, that doesn't do this, that doesn't do that, that writes nicely and smoothly, and it enables them to write quickly and legibly in an exam. These things are really, really important. Okay, for me, the advent of exams was always an opportunity to buy more stationery. I'm not telling you need to buy all the things in the pictures. Don't listen to your children if they say that, but it is handy to have pens in different colours, and plenty of paper and things, post-it notes, this type of thing, and putting quotes on the wall, maybe in the kitchen or on the fridge, which is somewhere probably your child spends, goes to several times a day. They can put things up and that they see them then regularly. I remember having quotes all over my bedroom wall when I was in year 11. It really helps. You just see them every day. They're just there, and they just become then second nature over time. This is a picture that I took of a friend's Facebook account a couple of years ago. Her daughter was doing GCSEs in a different school, and they had a blackboard in the kitchen, and then they as a family then knew where the pressure points were. You can see here there were 2 exams on this day, 2 exams here, so that they as a family were all totally aware which days were on, off, when they were going to school, and then the pleasure then of crossing them off day by day. And then you can see here at the end, cysgu, to sleep, celebrate, and then the end, the fact that there's sleep before the celebration, I think says it all. But it's really important for you to know as parents where your child's pressure points are, when those days are, when they may have 2 exams, and that you are able to then support them, make sure they've had breakfast, and just really simple things like that. Because I am not a breakfast eater at all. I never eat before I leave the house, but I could not face an exam without something in my stomach. My stomach used to rumble all the way. So, I learned pretty quickly that I could not face an exam on an empty stomach. It was the only days that I used to eat breakfast. So just things like this, really, you work out what works for your child, what they need, what their requirements are, and then you're able to support them with things like that. The canteen is open first thing in the morning as well. But obviously, you need to decide what's best for you as a family. OK, so we're back to this. So what we're going to try and do now is make sure that you understand what your child needs to do and how they can do this effectively. Because once we tell the children, hang on, adolygu, you need to revise, I think some of their brains probably look like this inside, thinking, I don't actually know what I'm supposed to do. What direction am I supposed to be going? So this is hopefully, we're going to demystify this evening to make sure that we're all clear. OK, then, so this is Ebbinghaus is a forgetting curve. And as you all probably know, I'm a German teacher. So Ebbinghaus was a German, of course, in the 19th century. And he did some experiments and looked at people's rate, not of remembering things, but of forgetting things. And this is his forgetting curve. Now, just talk you through it. At the point where you read something and get that knowledge, you will immediately, that is all in your head, 100% of it at that point. After 20 minutes, that is down to 58%. That's really astonishing as a percentage. And then after an hour, you're down to 44. So if you decide to start revising something an hour before the exam, an hour later, you will only remember 44% of that. If you decide to revise something one day for the exam, and that is the first time that you're going to look at it, the day before the exam, the following day, on the exam day, you will only remember 1/3 of that information. And then you can see here it goes down gently, and then it's only down to sort of 20% after a month. So as you can imagine, if you just do it once, that curve is quite dramatic, and the drop off of information. Now, obviously, there are variations. You know that some people's memories are better than others. Everybody has, an individual capability to remember things. Obviously, if you've done something before and learned something before, then the chances are you will remember it a bit better. If you make connections, if it's a fact about something that you're interested in, and if it's something that's important to you, the chances are you will remember it better. Obviously, if you've heard it before, the chances are you'll remember it. And also, if you're retrieving it from previously, then that will make things easier for you to remember. But if it's completely cold, new knowledge, this is the sort of thing we are facing in our forgetting. So what we need to do now is to ensure that this curve, that we combat this curve, and we're looking at something like this. So if you do it the first time, there's a slope going off, and then you revise it again, back up to 100%, and then it's a more gradual process of forgetting then you get it back up, and then you forget it more slowly over a longer period of time. And each time it's easier to get that information back up to 100%. Now, I would say, I know from years of teaching, on Friday last week, I tested year 13 on something that we'd learnt in year 12, some grammar rules in German. And they just looked at me thinking, we don't remember this from last year, And So some of it they could remember, sort of the classic highlights, but lots of the detail they had forgotten, to be fair, because it's months since we've done this work. But of course, for the exam, they need to remember all these grammar rules. And then I said on Friday afternoon, I said, okay, the next time I see you is Monday morning. I said, I want you to learn this again over the weekend, and I'll give you another blank piece of paper to write this out on Monday morning. And they said on Monday morning, yeah, it had only taken them about 10 minutes a day to revise this over the weekend because they were reviewing something that they'd previously learned. And they said that learning it afresh now was much, much easier and faster than they had and then the time that they took to learn it in year 12, because they were revisiting. So it's this they had this gradual forgetting, and then whoop, back up was something that they were able to do on Monday morning, full marks for everybody. They had remembered all that information. So obviously this only shows you a week, but you can imagine now with the time between now and the exams, we need to make sure that we put revision in blocks over a long period of time, and then that the pupils will not then forget this information between now and May, and do it regularly, little chunks and regularly. I know it sounds really boring, but it does avoid panics. So what I'd like to draw your attention to is something called retrieval practice. That's the Welsh slide. Dyma ni. Adalw Gwybodaeth is what we call this in Bro Eden. Retrieval practice. And this is what we would like you to consider as parents as effective revision for your children. So the first thing you need to know is active revision. It forces you to think back and remember, and it's not comfortable revision. Okay, it's difficult to begin, gets easier with time. And the whole point here is to pull the information out of your brain and put it on paper. Now, what lots of children will do when they're revising in inverted commas is that they will sit in a comfy chair with a cup of tea, and then they will read over their notes. And parents have said this in the past, well, I don't understand. He spends hours reading over his notes. Now, reading over notes and maybe highlighting something, it means stuffing information into your head. But what retrieval practice is, you need to retrieve it out of your head, pull it out of your head, not stuff it in. So retrieval practice doesn't need any, technology and really complicated stuff. What you need to do is have a blank piece of paper. And then, for example, I know in history they're doing the history of South Africa. Blank piece of paper, write down everything they can remember about the rules and the laws in South Africa with regards to apartheid and things. So they, the different years, try and put it in chronological order, blank piece of paper, and write it out. And then, this is when Mandela came out of jail, and then this is what happened next. And, that they write the chronology out. And, it's much easier to just sit there and think, yeah, I'm going to read about Mandela. And, yes, bit of highlighting, bit of pink here, bit of luminous yellow here. And, Bro Eden pupils, like all, they're world champion highlighters, but the cognitive science, the science of the mind, of the brain, it shows that just sitting there reading over stuff and highlighting is not really effective revision. So we go back to this blank piece of paper. If you had a blank piece of paper and said, right, I'm going to write down everything I remember. Now, for example, in DT, I know they're doing work, they have to do things about health and safety rules. With different situations, maybe a blank piece of paper, write out all the rules that they can remember with that. Or in maths, they need to write out, the formulae for working out, the surface area of something. Or in German, they could practice writing something out, some verbs, vocabulary, sentence patterns, all the things they can remember on a particular topic. And this is what retrieval practice is. Now, sitting there with a cup of tea, reading over it is much more comfy than actually starting with that blank piece of paper, scratching your head and say, right, what do I remember? I'm going to put it on paper. What do I remember? Then you go back to your book for example, your South Africa book in history, and then you tick through it, and then you say, oh, right, in the 60s, I forgot all these laws here, and you read over, right, next time I do this, I need to remember this law, and that law, right, the rest is, oh, the year that Mandela came out of jail, no, I got this wrong, and then you go through it, and then maybe do it again tomorrow, and tomorrow it should be easier and better. And then maybe leave it for a couple of days, do it again on the weekend, and then it would be easier again. So you just practice that, you know, retrieval over a period of time, and then that means that you'll avoid last-minute panics before the exam. Now, some children will thrive under pressure, of course, and they like to put themselves under last minute, but it's really not highly recommended. It's better that they do it slowly but surely, over a period of time, and pulling that information out of the head. Maybe they need to retrieve a diagram. They need to draw a picture of a cell for biology if they're revising, or symbols for chemistry, or, you know, bonding, you know, if for chemistry with chemical elements. It doesn't have to just be retrieving words. They could also retrieve by drawing diagrams and things. So anything that they need to learn off by heart, they start off with a blank piece of paper and then they retrieve it. Then they go back to their notes, open their notes up, and then check it then. And then that would be really effective practice. And then you can really see where the gaps are in your information. Now, the staff are aware that I'm doing this presentation this evening, and I popped into the staff room early and I said, any pearls of wisdom to share? And Mr. Alan Evans, who teaches Biol, he said, oh, I went to a really good thing last week. Scientist Adam Boxer was taking it. He's somebody who's big on Twitter. He said, what he says is really effective. He tells the children, how much revision have you done? Says a parent to a child, oh, I've done 3 hours. And parents will always say, don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. But what you need to tell your children is, don't lie to yourself, because they're conning themselves. They are going to have to face these exams. And it's the same thing, you know. How much revision did you do after school today, you know, in the revision session? Oh yeah, I was there for the whole hour. But some children come to revision sessions after school and talk and don't listen. You know, don't lie to yourself. Have you really revised well? And I think maybe that is something that, you know, children need to ask themselves, has this really been effective? Has this been really good use of my time? Have I done the best in that time? Because what we don't want is that they're in revising all the time. But what we want to do is that they do stints of time that are really good, deep, effective practice. And that's, you know, that's the main message this evening. They could read over their notes and highlight them until the cows come home, but that is not effective revision. Okay, this is the Welsh. There's an English version of this and I haven't got it on my presentation. Okay, so here we've got spaced practice. So this is the fact that you have to space your revision over a long period of time. Okay, if the spacing is missing and you do it all last minute, you will have last minute panics. Here we've got what we need here is retrieval practice. If this is missing, arholiadau missing, you will have ineffective strategies for revision. This is the mentality here, your child's mentality. They have to be really positive, thinking that they can do this, thinking that they can do their best. If that's missing, then they will not reach their potential in the summer. Cefnogaeth is the support. Now, this comes from school. This also comes from yourselves. If that is missing, the chances are your child is going to be really worried. And it's really important that your child remembers that they have a form tutor. They have a head of year. So quickly, we've got year 10 parents here, Mrs. Lowry Loader, year 11, Miss Bethan Yap. Then year 12 and 13 in the 6th one, we got Miss Land, who's head of 6th, and Mr. Alan Evans, who works as a deputy head of 6 alongside her. The senior management here, year 11, I have lunch with them every day in Cafe IKEA. So they are always able to talk to me. there are always people around, and also they have a subject teacher who is able to offer them support in that particular subject. Presenoldeb is attendance. If they're present here in school, if that is missing, they will get lower results. If they miss lots of lessons where there's lots of information and lots of revision, they will not reach their potential. So the top is the llwyddo, which is the success. Space the practice. Make sure it's retrieval, the mentality, the support and attendance. That whole suite of things will give you then success in the summer. Okay, so that's what we're really aiming for here, is all the support, mentality and attendance, but also that this is done effectively, the revision is done effectively. Okay, now Damien Benny is now the head in Penrheol in Swansea. He was the deputy when he wrote these in December 2018, and he's really good. He's a scientist, he's a science teacher. He's done lots of work on cognitive science, which is a really posh way of saying the science of how the brain works, how you think, how you learn things. And he's done lots of research. He came to talk in our inset day in February 2020, just before we went into lockdown. We had an inset day, and he came that day and he was really brilliant. So this pupil called Caitin was a pupil in Penrheol with Damien Benny, and he turfed her in after she did really well in her exams. Now, what we need to realise here, obviously she's an intelligent pupil, but it's really revealing to see what Caitin, we've never met her, what she did in order to revise. 10 A stars do not happen by magic. Okay, so here we go. Damien Benny's thread. So this is why, another reason why we're holding the meeting tonight is the fact that Caitin started revising in February half term. Now, what I'm not asking you to do is lock your child up for half term to revise, because to be honest with you, we've had 7 weeks of school since Christmas. It's been really dark, it's been really dismal. COVID is still here, and 7 weeks this time of year, it is really tiring, and the children are tired, the staff are tired as well. But she did start revising in February half term. So what I would say is that you need to get your children organised. Have they got all their notes? Have they got all their stuff? Do they know what they need to be revising? And maybe an hour here or there, start putting things in order. A little bit of retrieval here and there would do no harm during February half term, because the clear thing, the second point, is the fact that she obviously did far more hours closer to the exams. Okay, it increased, and that is natural, but she did start slowly and during February half term. So we're talking a month before the exams in point 3 there. So this for the GCSE pupils is the middle of April. Also the AS pupils is middle of April. For the A-level pupils are slightly later. So she would revise 2 to 3 hours after school every day and do 6 hours on a weekend. So that is quite a lot of a revision. Early on, she spent her time on background knowledge, building up that background, understanding a whole topic, not just doing exam questions. For some of the courses, there haven't been many past papers, because remember, we didn't have past papers in 2021 or 2020, and some of the courses are quite new, so there aren't many past papers. You shouldn't really waste your past papers until you've revised, because there's no point in wasting a past paper and then not being able to answer any of the questions. So building up the knowledge, because obviously in the summer the questions could be about nearly anything. She didn't spend an equal time on each subject. So this is, you need real self-awareness as a 16-year-old to work out what your weaknesses are. And also there is something really comforting about spending time revising things you know really well. And it takes guts, doesn't it, to face up to your demons and go after those things that you find really difficult. It's much easier, to spend time doing things that you're comfortable doing, confident, but that is also, if you can do them, then you probably should be revising something else. She was flexible with her timetable. Okay, so if something was covered in school, she would adapt either way, either to take it off the list if she'd done it in school, or to double up and to nail a topic completely. Okay, so what she also didn't do to say, I'm going to do an hour of history, okay, an hour of English. She would decide what she was going to do, look at topics. For example, our pupils do, you know, South Africa. So just decide what topics, what aspects, you know, in Welsh, they've got lots of poems to learn, maybe a poem at a time. A poem today, a different poem tomorrow, a different one again the following day. This type of thing, you know, in German, we have 18 topics to revise. But looking at the next one, with COVID, some of the specs, they've taken some aspects out of the exams. For example, in German, they have taken 5 topics out of the speaking and the writing exam. Now, there have been changes in lots of subjects because of the missed teaching time that we had last year. So pupils need to be really clear on what they need to revise, because they've taken those topics out of speaking and writing, but they still exist in the listening and reading exam in German. So pupils need to be really clear what is going to appear on which papers and which days. So I would, you know, it's because of COVID, the pupils need to be really totally clear. In German, the things that they have taken out, I haven't actually taught to the children. So I was really lucky that I've done really well there, in that they've taken stuff out that I haven't taught yet, and now don't need to teach to the children, but some things maybe that could be different in different subjects. So need to be really clear what will be happening in the exams. So then she used not only paper and pen and her brain, she also used Quizlet online. Lots of pupils have Quizlet sets, Quizlet accounts and things. And she would use this, and our pupils also should have a Quizlet account from when they were in year 7. It's a really good way of making a digital flashcard. You can revise on your phone using those, you know, definitions and different words and things, and you can revise really effectively there. Then she used to drag her poor mother into this, and the mother would nominate a topic, and then Caitin would retrieve and say everything she could remember. So just give herself a break from writing everything down. She would then tell her mother, her poor mother would then have, you know, the Catholic threat, everything she could remember. But also it says here, she gave herself timed tasks. Pupils have to remember that an exam is not endless, and that mostly there are really tight time constraints. And, you know, with lots of these exams, it is a struggle to get the papers finished. And also the fact that, you know, pupils often come out, oh, the paper's okay, but I didn't finish. And this is when teachers' hearts sink. Because also quite often the questions with lots of marks are at the end of the paper. So timing yourself while you're revising, you know, is something really, really important, because, you know, if you're going to practice by writing yourself an essay in English and give yourself 6 hours to complete it, well, obviously this is completely unrealistic, because in the real exam, there's far less time for them to be able to finish that. Also, pin number 10, self-quizzing and brain dumping. I think it's an awful term, but this is where you get this blank piece of paper, like I said before, and then put everything, dump from your brain, everything that you remember on that topic, and write it on the piece of paper. So you can obviously do it already speaking to somebody, and then or write everything down, and use, you know, a timer, use the kitchen clock to time things and things. That's really good. You know, practice really, and also the fact that, you know, pupils need to be used to writing pretty quickly and legibly. They need to be writing neatly so that the examiner is able to read all their pearls of wisdom clearly. Okay, so retrieval practice was her main method of revising. Phew, says Damien Benny, because Damien Benny has been for years on Twitter saying that retrieval practice is the best way of revising, and obviously this is what she'd done. And obviously Quizlet explains there why she used it, because it's easier to set up. And then As she started, she used background knowledge, building that up, and then later she shifted towards doing past paper questions. Okay, so we've discussed this before about building up the knowledge and then using that knowledge to test yourself against real questions. Some subjects like maths, the best way is, you know, you don't really need to, by that point, I hope you don't need to revise your times tables or things like that. You know, those things should have been internalized a long time ago. But, you know, in maths, I think doing questions, I think with maths it is different. The revision happens from practicing loads and loads and loads and loads of questions. But obviously in history, there's no point you practicing a question about South Africa if you haven't yet learned any facts about it. Then GCSE pods are not something that we're very familiar with in school. They're not available in Welsh and they very often don't correspond to our spec. So I would sort of skip over that, but she's watched 1,200 of them. And then the main thing is, you know, Damien Benny says that it's not just down to talent, it is hard work in disguise. Her talent and obviously her results. In fact, she's obviously worked really, really hard. So I think that was really worth sharing with you as parents. I think it is something really worth seeing. This is an example that I did a couple of years ago when we had exams last. This was for GCSE a week before the oral exam. You know, cut things down day by day, what you're going to do. I gave them maybe 3 or 4 small tasks per day, really small chunks. And then this is how I sort of set it out for them, and the pupils really enjoyed using something like this. So you can create this type of thing for yourself. Okay, the blog. I just wanted to say you've obviously come to the meeting tonight from a link in the blog, and that blog is called Revision or whatever title I gave to it. So what I'm going to do is there will be some links from tonight's meeting, like the links to the WJC timetables. There's some links to some materials about dealing with exam stress and anxiety. I'm going to put all the materials from this evening as links in the blog so that you're able to see that. I'm not going to be, I think I'll probably do it over half term. And what I'll do then is resend you the blog because it will have been updated. Also, there'll be a proper blog very soon explaining what's happening after half term. Some of the COVID restrictions are being slackened very, very slightly. And also we're going to go back to school uniform, trial that slowly. We're going to start with year 10 coming back to school in uniform, full school uniform every day, and they will be the first then to change for PE. So year 10 will need to be in proper school uniform, school shoes, proper trousers and polo shirt and jumper, please, it's really cold, every day. And that they will be in full uniform every day, and they will change them for PE and change back. So as I said, the links and stuff will go in the blog, and then any COVID changes and anything else, all the announcements will go through that. Right, some important dates. I know some parents are really keen to book holidays and things, so here we go. Here are the classic highlights as far as dates are concerned. So the GCSEs and AS exams start on Monday the 16th of May. So the pupils will be in school in lessons until the 13th. So from Monday onwards, they will only come to school to do their exams. Obviously, you know, we have to keep them in school as long as we can. We've missed so much teaching time with them, and it's really essential that we cover as much ground as possible, do as much revision with them as possible. So that will be their last lesson, and then that last day of lessons, and then on the Monday then there will be the first exams. And you know, they're bang bang. I know in that first week there is GCSE German and there is AS German, so they start with a swing, you know. And I know in that first week of GCSEs there is, I think, a Welsh, English and maths exam in that week. So, you know, they start straight away full throttle. Then the last day of the exams will vary on your child's subject combination, especially options and things. So the last day of exams is the 22nd of June. And the last A-level exam is the 24th of June on the Friday. They have got some contingency days then after that, in case we have, I don't know, another lockdown or some crisis. But the hope is that the exams will finish on these days. AS will then finish at some point before the A-level exams. The pupils will be able to go through the timetable on the WJC website and pick out their subjects there. So those are the dates. So I would say that you are safe to go on holiday after then, if you have children in those exam years in year 11 and year 13. Obviously, if your child is in 10 and 12, school will continue and they will come back to lessons, and we will start the year 11 and the year 13 courses with years 10 and 12 straight after the exam. We go straight in then and keep on going with them. So obviously normal school holidays will apply to year 10 and year 12, and then with year 11 and 13, please follow these. I know somebody in year 13 has already booked a holiday that clashes with exams, so you have to be really mindful, please, ensuring that these are all in place. Also, there are lots, for example, in year 11, there are oral exams for Welsh and English, and there's all sorts of things happening, and deadlines for coursework and coursework dates and visiting examiners and moderation. You know, your children have to be in school for those things. It's really important between now and May that they are in school every day, unless they have positive LFTs. So please do the LFTs really regularly with them, and then as long as they're negative, send them in every day. If they're positive, obviously, you know, they go straight online with us. We need the information that they've had a positive result, and if they have had a positive result and you send that positive result through and explain that to Miss Davis, who's the attendance officer, then obviously you're really lucky. Your child then has an online live lesson from their teachers at Bro Eden. It's still a really good deal, we believe. Okay, if your child is in year 10, it's not quite the same. So in year 11, 12 and 13, they have exams in all their subjects. Okay, so that is clear. Year 11, you know, they have exams in all their GCSEs. In year 10, that's not the case. They only have exams in some subjects, and that's what's happening in year 10 this year, from what I believe. I'm going to put this list in the blog, so don't think that you need to copy it all down. So RE, History, Welsh Lit, sets 1 to 3 only do Welsh Lit, same with English Lit. If they've chosen construction as an option, they'll have an exam. Then we've got applied science, if they are in a set doing applied science, or if they're in a higher set, they will have a biology, chemistry and physics exam, be that a triple exam or a double exam. So basically, if your child is in year 10, they are definitely going to have science exams. And then if they're in set 5 and 6 for Welsh, they will have Welsh language as well. Okay, so that's it from my presentations point of view. I asked staff this afternoon if there were any messages that they needed me to pass on, and I had loads. So I'm going to go through them very quickly. Some of them are really important messages, so I'm just going to go through. I try not to bore you completely, and some of them are relevant to all the different years. So if you have a child in year 13, this is really important. The first week back on Wednesday night, which is the 2nd of March at 5 o'clock, there is a meeting about student finance. So how do they fund themselves, and how do you fund your child through university? Philip Lyons, who according to Miss Land is the top dog in Student Finance Wales, is going to be talking to you at 5 o'clock in that meeting in the first week back. Welsh back. For years 11 and 13, the deadline is before the Easter holidays. I know in year 13, some pupils have now finished all their back work. Their projects have been done. Some of the work looks absolutely fantastic, and it is brilliant preparation for university. Some of the essays and the projects I saw last week. So the deadline for back is Easter. We will be contacting some parents after half term to turf your children after school to catch up with some back work. Okay, Welsh. There are lots of Welsh exams. So year 10 will do the set 5 or 6 are doing the language exam, you know that. Year 10 sets 1, 2 and 3 in Welsh will have an exam on the novel. Year 11 sets 1, 2 and 3 have a llenyddiaeth oral exam on April the 7th. Everybody has to be in school that day. It is a set exam with a set date from WJC. They cannot resit that exam. It happens on the 7th of April. Year 11 sets 1, 2 and 3. Year 11 sets 1, 2, 3 and 4 will have a language exam in the summer. Also, if your children sat exams in January, so Welsh language, English language, also if their back work went in January, the results day for that is March the 10th, and they will have an official slip from WJC on that day. Any problems with that, with the Welsh and English exams, the literature exams, they will be able to resit in the summer. Okay, also the A-level visiting examiner for Welsh A-level is going to be here on May the 10th. That's the date we've just had from WJC. This is an exam about Hedd Wyn in year 12 and Unos o Leuad in year 13. Everybody has to be in school. That is the day of the exam with the visiting examiner. You cannot resit that. In history, there's revision after school and all sorts of activities there. So this information I will put into the blog. In English, Miss Morris wants year 11 parents to know that there will be an English language unit 3 mock exam in the English lessons after half term. And it's important, once again, that they are in lessons. Now, in the English exam, there is pregnancy. So your children will know by now that Mrs. Tyrion Barrett-Jones, a really experienced English teacher, is pregnant. And on Monday, she started her 3rd trimester of her pregnancy. And you may or may not know that because of health and safety rules with COVID, that if you're in your 3rd trimester, you are not allowed to be in school. So Mrs. Barrett-Jones has to teach online from home, and she's going to be teaching years at 10, 11, 12 and 13 from home, which is not ideal, but obviously they still get Mrs. Barrett-Jones, which is obviously great, and she's doing that through the 3rd trimester till her official maternity leave starts. Now, in year 10 set 1, they have Mrs. Barrett-Jones as a teacher. And because she's going to be at home and that's not ideal to do sort of discussion work and oral work and, you know, partner work and things, Miss Morris is going to be teaching half the year 10 set 1 lessons straight after half term. So this is 4 lessons a fortnight that they will have online with Mrs. Barrett-Jones, and then they'll have 4 lessons a fortnight with Miss Morris if they're in year 10 set 1, and that will start straight after half term. There are lots of deadlines coming up now with coursework and project and artwork, all sorts of things there. For example, if your child is in year 11 doing art, they will have had a brief, which is the exam paper from WJC, and they now need to be doing their preparation plan before the exam starts on the 7th of March, where they have to do their final piece under exam conditions. On the 7th of March, on that day, they'll do 4 lessons of that artwork, and then after that, they will have sessions during lessons. They have to do 10 hours all together of that. There is an art club after school. It's been running since September. It's on Wednesday night. They were up there this evening. So please make sure that your child attends all their art lessons, because obviously this is really crunch now. This exam work happens in lessons, every lesson over the next period of time. Everything then has to be finished by the 8th of April from that exam work. Geography. There is revision after school. and then, you know, there are sessions there. We put all that detail in the blog. I've talked to you already about the year 10 uniform, full uniform after half term, and then I've got various links that I'm going to put in the blog about exam stress and things like that. So those are all my notes that I needed to go through with you. Bit of a whirlwind. Now then, I'm having a quick look at the messages in the chat. So, okay, so how do we ensure our guys have the correct material notes to revise? That's a very good question, actually. But if they've been in all their lessons and that they have all their stuff and they haven't dropped floating pieces of paper around the place, they should have all the material notes to revise. They should have a revision list from their teachers, and then, you know, in some subjects there are textbooks that they use and they can check against those. Yeah, so I would say that it's really important they talk to their teachers to ensure that, you know, that they can go through with the teachers, maybe go through the file with the teachers to make sure that everything there is in place. Last day of lessons for year 13 is usually year 13 go all the way to Whitsun holidays. They usually finish on the Friday before Whitsun. And that's what I would envisage. We haven't made a decision on that yet. I haven't looked at the timetable, but I think that's probably what will happen. Year 13 usually go to Whitsun because most of their exams are usually after Whitsun half term. What date are GCSE results? I don't know off the top of my head. I will find out and I will put it in the blog. The A levels will be first on a Thursday, and then the following week it's probably online. I will find out and I'll put it in the blog that will come out at the end of the week. Do we have any idea of the dates for the year 10 exams in May? Yes. So I will put all the dates in the blog. I can tell you that the first year 10 exam is on Monday the 16th. So the GCSEs start on Monday the 16th, as I said earlier. And on that very first day, there is an RE exam for year 10. On the Thursday, there is history on the 19th. And then there is English Lit before half term. And then after half term are all the others, Welsh Lit, construction, and all the science exams. Okay, so for year 10, they are starting from Monday the 16th of May onwards, and the last one is on Monday the 20th of June. So that's the spread for year 10. I'll put these all in the blog. The revisions classes for half term, and this half term coming, I think those have already been distributed to the pupils. I'll put those in the blog as well. Are there revision sessions for year 11? Yeah, I think there are some revision sessions for year 11 during the holidays. I'll put all the information in the blog for you, and also obviously in due course, if there are sessions in Easter, which is usually when most of them happen, you'll have all that information. The last day of school for year 12. Yeah, so year 12 start their exams on the 16th of May. So they finish on Friday the 13th, the same as the GCSE kids. The AS exams start straight away. Then they will do their exams and they will come back to school then, and they will start their year 13 courses. Okay, so year 12 do not finish early for the summer. They go right to the end usually, and they usually do lots of work there. Yeah, Mr. North, diolch yn fawr, has put the some timetables, general quals there. So and somebody's thanking me. So diolch yn fawr, Richard W. So it's been a whirlwind, presentation. Any further questions now, put them in the chat. I don't have anything else to say now. I just want to go and lie down after doing 2 of these. But it's been really positive. They've been over 105. I think it was 105 or just more than that at some point in the meeting this evening. You know, parental support is really important for us. So diolch yn fawr iawn am ymuno gyda ni. Sorry bod chi wedi colli'r cyfarfod Cymraeg o bosib gynne. Thank you very much. Any more questions now, stick them in the chat. Will they have revision sessions for all subjects until the exams? Yeah, so, and the exams, I don't know which year your child is in. So the GCSEs and the ASs start on the Monday, and they will have lessons until that Friday. The revision sessions after school will carry on until the exams. Yeah, so when will we know which sections, units of the syllabus will be removed for the exams for each subject? That information has already been published, the mitigations from WJC, and they are all on the WJC website. Now, we will ask the staff to go through those with the pupils, but for example, in German, some of the topics that have been taken out, my pupils don't even know that those topics exist, because I didn't teach them in year 10, then they were taken out, and I don't intend to teach them, So we make sure that all the pupils are really clear of what happens in every exam. Somebody's saying diolch yn fawr, lovely. Okay, diolch yn fawr iawn.